we took a little break from the Level Up Fishing podcast because we had a ton going on over the holiday season, but we are back at it and we are gearing up for our 18th anniversary for GSO fishing, and we are absolutely stoked.
It has been a pretty wild winter, but welcome back to the Level Up Fishing podcast. I am Andy Cochran.
And I am Stormy Cochran, and we are the proud owners of GSO Fishing.
As Stormy mentioned, we are this spring kicking off our 18th year of guiding, and so we are going to have an anniversary sale to go along with that, with our product side of things. And one thing that's been fun for us looking at this anniversary is just looking back at all the memories. And one of the things we wanted to talk about is how things have changed in the last 18 years fishing wise. A lot of things have changed, but we want to talk about the changes that we've seen in fishing.
And there's been a lot. I mean, 18 years is a really long time. And so there's good, bad, ugly, all the changes.
A lot of it's equipment based, technology based, community based. A lot of things have changed for the better. Some things it's still on the fence if it's better, but we want to kind of walk through a couple changes that we've seen, and we'd love to hear some feedback on your thoughts on these as well.
So let's get into our first topic. What is one thing you have seen that has been a major change as far as fishing and technology?
So clearly this has been probably a fairly recent change. It's been a gradual change for 18 years, but electronics, as far as fish finders, chart plotters, sonar machines, have been easily the thing that evolves the quickest and the most. I remember 18 years ago, our first boat had the state-of-the-art Lowrance LMS 522. It was actually a black and white fish finder. And then the next year we were super excited because they came out with a color version. So you go to a 2D sonar that's in color. It was so cool, so much easier to read targets. And then fast forward to now, and it's forward facing sonar is all the rage out there on the tournament trails, panfish fishing, ice fishing. It's dominating the landscape. And it has dramatically changed how we think about fish activity, how we fish, how we approach new areas. It's changed a lot of things very quickly.
It's incredible. Like, I don't know if you've seen that viral video going around, and I assume a bass fisherman on the front of his boat, and there's like this ball of bait fish, and there's birds diving into the water, and you can see that on the sonar. It's the craziest thing.
I'm sure most of you are pretty aware of what this technology is, but forward-facing sonar, FFS is its acronym. That's sort of the generic term for it. Every major brand has their own version. Live Scope is the Garmin one, Active Target for Lowrance, and Mega Live Imaging for Humminbird. Basically what it is it's casting sonar out in front of you or away from you that you can actually see in real time activity in the water, up to hundreds of feet away from you. And so you're able to view fish and their reactions and what's going on under the water with fish that are totally undisturbed and unaware of your presence. And so it's been very eye-opening in a ton of different ways for what you can learn just looking at fish behavior with this machine.
Well, we learned a ton just this winter under the ice. It was eye-opening to see the way the fish reacts to even something as small as movement on the ice.
Yeah, somebody walking across the ice 40 or 50 feet away from a school of fish and how it affects how those fish react to hearing that noise above them, even in relatively deep water. So it brings to light how sensitive some of these fish are. And with that too, even just the sonar noise itself, how close these fish can get to you before they feel the electronic pulses going through the water, and it affects their lateral lines and they get aware of your presence just based on your own sonar noise. So many things like that you start to learn about too.
But on the flip side, we've also seen like lake trout come in real time, hover over your jig, and either react to it, not react to it. And so you can kind of base off of their reaction, real time reaction, know what I have on is not the right answer. What I need to keep this, I need to jig, I need to, whatever it may be that you need to do. It's really awesome to see those fish in real time react to your baits.
So yeah, one of the obvious positives to this type of sonar is just that. Like it cuts the learning curve way down. So even in like a casting situation, you're throwing at a fish that you see a blip on your screen 60 feet away with your confidence lure and your technique that you use with it. And then at real time, you can see the lure and the fish on the screen at the same time and see how that fish reacts to your lure based on your technique that you use, or the color that you chose, or the depth that the lure goes, or all these variables. And if the fish doesn't bite, now you already have a immediate feedback to know that you need to change something. So you can literally go one cast at a time and fine-tune your technique, where before this you would have that confidence lure, that technique that catches fish for you in an area that you're confident that has them in it, and you would basically just fish the area for an hour, 2 hours, and change up things here and there. But now you can do those same changes in minutes rather than hours, and so it cuts down immensely on fine-tuning your technique or your lure choice to make your fishing day just way more efficient.
Well, we've said that before in the past. Fish the pattern, not the spot, and situational awareness, and these cut down on that so much. You're right, it takes away so much time of trying to figure that out. Instead of figuring it out in 3 to 5 to 7 casts, you might have it down in 2.
So, and it can even cross over to trolling. It's the same exact thing. Even salmon fishing, trolling, lake trout, anything you're trolling for, you can use this sonar to watch your gear in the water as it's trolling and watch fish react to it in the same exact way you would casting. So at the same time, be able to change up and fine-tune your trolling pattern very, very quickly to make your day just go so much more efficiently.
Now, I think we could go on and on and on and on about the pros because we absolutely love it. What are some cons?
So you'll start to see the cons really show up in the competitive tournament world, where it's really started to become a competitive advantage or disadvantage if you don't have it, because it makes you so much more efficient in your choices that certain tournament trails are putting together committees to try to decide where is this thing going, where are we going to head it off. And so if you look at the highest pro level events, everybody on the tour has this technology. And at that point, it's probably expected, and that's probably the right place to use it competitively, because those are the guys that you need behind the technology to drive it and to create better versions for everybody else. But as you start kind of working backwards towards the grassroots of tournament fishing, I'm really seeing the biggest negative effect. It basically has turned into unfortunately more of a money game, where if you can't afford this technology, it's harder for you to compete. At the end of the day, it's still fishing, and you still have to find them, you still have to catch them, you still have to understand all the little nuances about fish behavior throughout the day. But this technology certainly, as we've said, makes it a lot quicker to do all those things. So I just remember when I was starting to bass tournament fish, I started out as what's called a co-angler or a non-boater. And with this sort of technology, it's kind of eliminating that spot for you in the tournament field, because the boater is on the front deck looking at his forward facing sonar all day. And the co-angler's got to fish out of the back of the boat, so he doesn't have that advantage of looking at that screen. Now that in the last couple of years, we've, especially bass fishing, have learned that there's so many bass that don't orient to the bank, or they don't go to structure. They're offshore, they're roaming.
Yeah.
And these guys are throwing at individual fish offshore in deep water. It puts the co-angler at a huge disadvantage because he doesn't have really anything to throw at. He's just fishing blind out in the middle of the lake, that's going to be potentially a negative impact on the tournament trail, is trying to get co-anglers to sign up for these tournaments and spend the money to travel, and then just get stuck in the back of the boat casting in the middle of the lake at who knows what.
Right. And especially if, like you said, if they're targeting a single fish, you're really SOL at that point.
So that's one bad side of it that I see. And the other side of it too is, there's a lot of high school kids and stuff that, they're real competitive, and they love fishing, and they want to get into tournament fishing. And, I remember that too, where I'm just happy to have a boat, let alone do I have an extra $4,000 to dump into electronics? No. And so this up and coming generation that really wants to get involved but can't afford it immediately steps into a tournament at a disadvantage, because they can't afford to spend all that kind of money. They just want to go fishing and have fun.
And you and I had a conversation about this before. Well, we've had several conversations about this before, and one thing I believe, and this, it may be true, it may not be true, but one thing I could see is that at that age, I think it could be fully relied on. Like, you've been fishing a long time. Like you said, 18 years ago, this wasn't even a thing or a thought, or, it was not like this. So you had to learn patterns and stuff based off of situational awareness and seasonal patterns and all that, where this could be just relied upon. And then what are you going to do if it breaks? What are you going to do if it suddenly doesn't work for some reason, or you don't have it for some reason? And we've seen that, where this year we went out on our kayaks just recently, and we were like, whoa, this is weird, because we've had this advantage, or whatever you want to call it, for so long that we've been using, and then suddenly we're on our kayaks and we don't have that, and it was just like, okay, but we have the knowledge in the background and all the years of fishing to know what we should have done, where I feel like a younger generation could become completely reliant on the technology and not learn some of those important foundations of fishing.
Yeah, it's just like smartphones, right? Like, there's a certain generation that at this point now are basically forced into them. But for a long time it was, smartphones, like, I don't know how to use this thing. I don't want to know how to use this thing. I just want a telephone that goes in my pocket. Like, where's my flip phone?
Yeah.
I know how to use a phone. Yeah. It's like, but then, the younger generations grew up with smartphones, and so they can take our generation's smartphone and do all kinds of stuff we didn't even know you could do with them.
Our 8-year-old does that.
And so same with this fishing technology is, the Elite Series this year is a great example of that. Oh. And all the rookies on the Elite Series, there was 10 rookies that made the cut in that first tournament. That was a record for bass.
Oh.
And all these guys are forward-facing sonar experts. These younger generation kids understand electronics really well, and they have put themselves where they can, and they do. They 100% rely on that screen to help them catch fish.
Yeah.
Where, the older guys, and this is sort of where I'm coming in too, is we grew up understanding seasonal patterns, lure selection, where are these fish going to be and why, and where do I position to throw at them to get the bite, kind of stuff. And then this forward-facing sonar came along, and we're basically using it as a tool to almost justify what we were doing, or help us select a lure quicker.
Yeah.
But we're not relying on it to find the fish. We feel like we understand patterns well enough to do that on our own, and then use the screen to help us fine tune it.
Yeah.
Where the other guys are using it for finding them, catching them, everything. And so is it a tool you can use to help yourself be more efficient, or is it something that you are beginning to completely rely upon?
Yeah. And it's hard. Like, who knows what answer is right? But I just know we saw that, like, as soon as it was taken away or it wasn't available to use, you have to go back and you have to rethink, okay, well, I know. And it took me half the day on my kayak before I was like, I couldn't find my rhythm. And then suddenly it just like clicked. And I was like, I know exactly what to do. And as soon as I started doing what I used to do, I started catching fish, and it was fantastic. But it really took a while to reset my brain on, not that I sit there and rely on it, but it's just this, it's an advantage that you're like, okay, this is great. I don't have to cover that water because there's no fish there, But anyways, I just see that there are so many pros and so many cons. And one more con I have noticed big time is in the comment section of those pro tournament social media posts. And in the comment section, people are really bored. They are really irritated.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that these tour level committees are looking at, is the fan experience around watching these events with all these guys just staring at their screen and throwing at a blip is not as exciting as watching a guy, pick apart cover and like really put together like a real sustainable pattern, and then, throwing at targets or throwing topwater or something that's real visually exciting to watch on a live stream on a tournament.
Yeah.
Where now it's just turned into, guys in the middle of the lake, there's like nothing around. These guys are just staring at their fish finder, not even casting, just driving around on the troll motor, and they see a blip on the screen and they throw at it. And
yeah.
So it's changed the fan experience too.
Yeah. But again, it's a tool in the end. There are pros, there are cons. It's amazing. We use it. We use it on open water. We use it on the ice. We love it, but there are pros and cons to both sides of it.
Yeah, it absolutely is here to stay.
Yep.
And after using it for a couple years, it's highly recommended to anybody that can get their hands on it. But at the same time, you're still dealing with wild animals, and you still have to catch them.
Yeah. So let's move on to another topic. And for me, that would be social media and community. And you're like, how? But one leads to the other. One thing I have seen in the last 18 years is the community of anglers coming together, that the sport, and I can't say this is true across the board, okay? I've never fished in Germany, I've never fished in Australia, but I know in our small community here in Colorado, the people that surround us at GSO Fishing, I feel like our community has come together a ton, and it's not every man for himself.
Yeah, so something that has changed with technology as well in the last 18 years is social media, smartphones, accessibility for everybody, for each other.
Yeah.
And so, again, pros and cons to both. But one of the pros that we've seen with all of this is, real-time information sharing. The fishermen 18 years ago, it was like pulling teeth to get info at anybody. you kind of had your group of buddies that would talk about, your fishing stuff, and that still is the case, but through social media, there's a lot more access to recent history on bodies of water, current conditions everywhere, how anglers are doing, what they're catching them on, what's working, what's not working. And so you can obviously shorten your learning curve a bunch too, just by being a member of these certain communities that are helpful, and there are certain communities that are not helpful.
What?
But social media has made it easier for anglers with similar
likes and species and fishing
interests
styles
or whatever to get together virtually and share info and make each other better fishermen.
Well, one example of that is species-specific Facebook groups. So, if you guys didn't know, Blue Mesa is a huge perch fishery, and they were actually illegally stocked in Blue Mesa, and they are thriving. They are out of control. There are no limits. You can keep as many as you can catch. There's no size limits, bag limits, daily limits, nothing. Keep them. They want you to keep them. We have seen massive schools in Blue Mesa, especially in this last year. Despite the fact that we had several low water years in a row, the perch did not care. They are thriving. And so we got on Facebook and started searching different perch fishing groups just to see, like, what are they doing at the Great Lakes to catch them? What are they doing on the Mississippi River to catch them? And we learned some great techniques that we hadn't thought about trying for perch that were highly effective. And it really changed our fishing game last summer. We caught so many outstanding perch at Blue Mesa on techniques that we hadn't even thought about using, that we use for other species like bass. And so I think just the community from that aspect is truly outstanding. But again, there are cons because there are always keyboard warriors. We won't get into that. We know how I feel about that. I do not like that. I am one of those people that I will literally give you the shirt off my back if you want to know, because I love fishing. I'm so grateful Andy taught me how to fish, that it is not this every man for himself mentality. Like, Andy has always encouraged me and our daughters to go fishing with him and shares his love of the sport. And so I'm the same way. I will be happy to teach anyone how to fish or go fishing with them. So I really don't understand that. Like, don't tell anyone there are fish in this lake. They will come here. I can't understand that mentality. I don't live in a crowded city, so maybe it's a little different for me, but I just will never understand the every man for himself mentality. And I love seeing this change. Some of our greatest fishing friends, we actually met through social media. And some of our biggest GSO fishing supporters we've met through social media. We actually met an amazing human being through that perch fishing group. They DM'd us, ended up coming out fishing with us for a few days in the summer, loved it, came out again in the winter, has been sharing it all around. They have shared so much about our jigs and our company. They ended up supporting a nonprofit here in Colorado, all because of this connection from a Facebook group. It has been an amazing experience. So I love seeing that community has really evolved in the 18 years.
So yeah, technology changes things, and most oftentimes for the better, and that's another very good example of something that has changed drastically in the 18 years, but also has helped so many people become better and make better memories because of it.
Yeah, just huge. That's probably my favorite change in the past 18 years.
From there we can talk about something that hasn't changed, but it hasn't changed because it's always changing, and that's like these companies that we work with and the gear that they make and the equipment that's available on the market now. The last 20 plus years, there's always advancements in technology for making rods or making reels and making better fishing line and better hooks, and there's always going to be technological changes and advancements in the equipment that we use.
Mm-hmm.
But what doesn't change is the companies behind them, as far as they're still around.
Yeah.
We've been using certain lure companies, rod reel companies for our entire guide career, and these companies are still, the most relevant companies in the whole fishing market, because they are willing to adapt to the changes in technology and the changes in the marketplace and thrive and do well and support anglers no matter what kind of changes they see, and they adapt to it. And so we're really grateful that we're still able to work with all these companies. That hasn't changed.
Right. Like one of the big ones that you guys know we love is Trocar, which is Eagle Claw. And they have been around for a very, very long time.
Yeah, Colorado company that's been around forever.
Yeah, it's 19 something.
Yeah, since
I don't know, a long, long time.
Still the only American-made fish hooks, and we use their high-end hooks from their Trocar pointed stuff, and that's another way that they change their manufacturing process to bring the highest grade and efficient hooks on the market to people. And they've been a huge supporter of us our entire career, and they're still doing their thing.
Yeah. But then there's amazing companies. There are so many, like Rocky Mountain Tackle and Radical Glow, and there are so many that we have used for so long. And then there's also amazing new companies, and even though they haven't been around as long, you can see them adapting and changing as like right when they come out onto the market, which is amazing. Like Carl's, they have an outstanding product, and they're constantly innovating and adapting, creating sizes that anglers want or colors that anglers want. But you can see the innovation from them, even though they're not as old as, say, Eagle Claw. But they have done these amazing things, and it's so fun to watch how everything is adapting but somehow staying the same.
Yeah, it's still the same old fishing out there, but there's so many cool new things too.
Yeah, like Carl's, for instance, has the Trophy Chaser, which is a tube jig. Tube jigs have been around forever. They are a staple, or they should be. If they are not in your toolbox, in your tackle box, they should be. And the only difference between his is it has fins and eyes and looks like a fish, and they are so highly effective. So highly effective. You can use them as a swim jig. You can use them as just like a regular vertical tube jig. They are so highly effective. We love them.
So yeah, changes in baits, the advancement of super glow paint, which we use in like Radical Glow uses in their plastics and our plastics, where if it's pink and you put it under a black light and charge it up and put it in the dark, it's pink.
It's still pink.
It's not just the old glow green.
Yeah.
Like that has been a big change that we've seen too in that whole market, is just technology again, just making things more lifelike, more brilliant, more realistic, and more efficient.
Yeah. So congratulations to all the amazing companies out there. We fully understand. We've been doing this for 18 years, and we've been doing our products. So we initially started in 2018 and started selling them in 2019. And it's not easy. It is not easy to always keep your doors open. It is not easy to always provide for everyone and make social media posts and create new products. And it is not easy. It is hard. And they have done it for ever. Like
longer than we've been around.
Yeah. And just like that is an amazing feat in my eyes. So congratulations to everyone on changing but not changing. I think that's outstanding. So thank you for joining us for part of our 18th anniversary episode list. We have another one coming up. I'm super excited about. I am interviewing Mr. Andy Cochran.
Oh boy.
So I'm super excited about that one. And that'll come out next week. But thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Level Up Fishing Podcast.
And we would love to hear some of the changes that you've seen or some of your pros and cons for any of the stuff we've talked about. So give that some thought and put it in the comments below. But until then, we hope to see you on the water.